What's up, guys? I'm Nick, and this is Build Dad Build. And it's so windy right now that my nurples are purple. Alright guys, we're going to try a little experiment today. From the thumbnail, you probably already know if it worked or not. I have some backup ideas if this does not work. Basically, I want to make a door for IKEA Kallax, another one of those, just the single one. I have one standing up in the office. You'll see it later. It's got stuff in it. It's a similar shelf to the one that I used in my IKEA hack. I'll link that IKEA hack right here. But I just want to do like a door that'll open close on it, kind of like just a cabinet door. And what I was thinking is, I just want like 3/4 of an inch thick material, something, you know, not too super crazy, but I wanted to be able to burn it. But what I want to know is if I can use one of those project panels, or if I'm gonna have to try to get some 3/4 inch material that's wide enough. If it does not fall apart or warp like a maniac, I am going to seal it with some Halcyon finish from Total Boat. Then I'm gonna go to town on it with this bad boy. Woohoo! The nice people at Graph sent this over. It's called the Termite. It is a blade that goes on your angle grinder. It scares the living crap out of me. So we're gonna be very careful when you use this, but the idea is once that gator seal has been sealed in and is no longer like flaky and crisping off, I'm gonna come back with this. I'm gonna cut some lines in there, not unlike Eddie Van Halen's guitar. And I think we're even gonna try to drop a little dye in those grooves, see what that looks like. What's the worst that could happen? There, I said it, I got it out of the way. Now let's do this, man. Come on. Okay, so that worked a lot better than I thought it was going to. Check this out. All right, so we got our gator. It's relatively flat, man. I mean, it's got a little bit of wobble in it, but not. Actually, as it cools, it's cupping more. See that? Huh. All right. Okay, well, it was cool for a second. The biggest problem I have with it right now is the grooves in between. I was trying to avoid joining boards together so I didn't get that groove. But we are gonna use this as kind of a proof of concept type situation. So I'm still gonna seal it up with the Halcyon and we'll carve in it a little bit, and then we'll decide what we wanna do from there as far as the actual door goes. We're gonna use this little guy, or we're gonna do some tests with this little guy. This is the Graph Termite. It's made out of tungsten carbide. It's got this crazy texture on the edge of it that's supposed to keep it from like getting hung up on anything. The reason I'm afraid of this is because it's kind of like putting a little circular saw blade or a saw blade into an angle grinder. So we're gonna do some test cuts on 2x8 I have sitting over here first, and then we will move over to our test piece, our charred test piece. I'm not sure what kind of dust this is gonna put off, so we're gonna put our mask on for now. These are my chainsaw gloves. They're Kevlar. I don't know what kind of control I'm gonna have over this thing, so I'm just being a little overly cautious right now. Okay, that cut a lot straighter and easier than I thought it was going to. I tried to do some side-to-side carving, and as you angle the blade more, you can carve down a little bit with it. But I don't know if I would actually use it for that. Honestly, I'd rather use my turbo plane or one of my cut-all discs, just because those have that rounded surface on them. But for straight cuts, it seems pretty decent. And the width of the blade is wider than I thought it was gonna be, which is good because I was afraid I was gonna have these really thin cuts and I was gonna have to like try to inject the die into them. But it's a pretty decent cut just going straight. So I think I'm ready to hit the old gator. See what we can get cooking. Tastes like chicken. Does it? I've never eaten alligator. Alright guys, so that experiment was a success. It actually looks exactly how I wanted it to. I did use wood dye in here. I don't know if that's really necessary. It's not like it does anything to bring out the grain or anything. I may actually do the actual pieces with just red paint because it's gonna be cheaper. Look at how cool that is. That's so badass. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna do this many cuts or anything on the final doors, but Okay, next stop is to cut these panels down to size, then burn them, finish them, cut them, paint them, you know, all that good stuff. I'm gonna be using European hinges on the old Kallax here. I've got it out here now. Seen it in every dorm room after like, what, 2000? Something like that. And I was at WorkbenchCon last week, and Craig had a deal where if you brought him a coupon, you could pick something off their table. They did have this concealed hinge jig that I'll be trying out. I've never done European hinges before, so we're gonna find out real quick if they're easy or not. Or if I'm really angry. But to make sure that I've got everything correct, I'm actually gonna do a test piece first. So I'm just gonna take like a piece of 1x material, cut it to the same length as those, and then drill the holes with this and all that good stuff to see how it works. And let's see. Oh, and that's not something that I thought of. I picked it up from Wood Brew. I'll link to their concealed hinges video down below. Real good video. It's real short and to the point, like 3.5 minutes, so about a quarter of what this video is gonna be, I think. All right, now don't just sit there. Let's get to work. All right, that Craig jig is really easy to use. So this is the first time I ever put hinges on a board. Okay, for your distance from the edge, you've got an index with positive stops that you can just turn with a screwdriver. And then you just need to look at the hinge instructions to see what this distance needs to be. On ours, it's 3 millimeters. So I already have it set up 3 millimeters. Crank it over there and it locks in place. Also, if the measurement is an empirical, pro tip, look at the instructions in another language. All the other ones pretty much will be in metric. So to say to make this measurement 1/5 of the total length, I'm not gonna do that though, just to make my life a little easier. I'm just indexing this off of the actual jig itself. This is 4 inches. Next, you've got your Forstner bit with your depth stop. I was fortunate enough to where the top of this, where that collet is the depth that I need. But you just put it through the jig and kind of measure on it to figure out exactly where you need it. And then this just goes right in your drill. And then this locks into place. If I can get it in there right. All right. And then, next you just take this out. And then there's these 2 holes right here. I don't know how well you can see those. See those 2 holes? One here, one here. You just take your 1/16 inch bit. And that drills your pilot holes for the hinge. All right, and then you just take that off. 2 little indexing holes go right here, and there you go. And then I already drilled these out. You can probably see them there, but basically I just came over here, held this up where I wanted it, and then marked through those holes right there. Probably I can't see that, but marked through those holes and then pulled it down and drilled it out. So kids, don't get a little crazy with your torch and burn through the hole you just drilled. Oops. All right guys, so problem solved. I went back to Lowe's, I picked up another project panel, I cut it to size, drilled the holes for the hinges, and burn it again. So now we have 2. Woohoo! Next stop is finished. We're gonna put a little halcyon on there. I am running seriously low. I have some coming in the mail. I hope I have enough to do 2 coats. I think I can only get 1 coat in today because I'm gonna have to go pick up the kids. So here's to hoping we have enough. You ever just do this for no reason? Oh, I'm into it. Something like that. I don't know what I'm doing. Again, don't mind the crazy cup that this is in. It's called Halcyon Clear. I will have a better container of this next time because it's kind of stuck in there. It's not my worst project. So let's talk about it. As far as a proof of concept goes, this worked for me. As far as end result, not so much. But it's fine. And the reason it's fine is because I learned a ton doing this project. So let's go over what worked and what didn't. So the graph termite wheel worked really good. Honestly, it's a solid blade. It just, this application probably not so much. And part of that is when I was using the smaller piece of wood, it was a lot easier to stay centered over the top and I could get my lines straighter. As the pieces got bigger, I was finding I had to reach and draw it towards myself. So some of these lines are not completely straight. Some of them kind of curved a little bit. So in that regard, would a circular saw with a straight edge work better for this application? Yes. Graf sent me that blade, wanted me to test it out for him. I thought this would be a good application for it. I mean, if you got a real steady hand, you could have pulled this off better than I could. I will say this too, the termite, once you use it, not nearly as scary as I had thought it was. I thought it would be really hard to control. It's actually really, really easy. So I will hang on to it. It will remain in my small arsenal of tools, and if other applications come up for it, I will use it. Next is the Craig concealed hinge jig. That thing works a treat, if you will. The biggest problem I have, which had nothing to do with the jig, is once I had put the hinges on, I had to balance the door with one hand and try to screw it in with the other. And that is nobody helping me in the shop problems. That has nothing to do with the actual jig. The jig is amazing. The next good to come out of this is the actual proof of concept. And we know the halcyon finish holds the gator well enough to actually carve it. And that right there is worth the price of admission for me, because that opens a lot of doors down the road. Another thing came of this that I'm not going to tell you right now. It will be in a future project. It was like an unintended result that may have also opened up doors for some cool new finishes. All right, now let's talk about the bad things. Number one, I bought the wrong hinges. Did not know that they make hinges that will screw on the face of a cabinet. One mounts to the cabinet facade. That might be the face, I'm not sure, but it goes like it goes around it, and then one mounts to the inside of the cabinet. I thought these mounted to the inside of the cabinet. Didn't realize until I was about halfway through the project they were the wrong ones. Not a huge deal, but just be aware when you're buying hinges that there are different kinds out there, and to read the packaging. Next thing that didn't work, while cutting on the doors, I had 3 issues. The first, and you can't really see it right now, but anytime I made a cut up in this area, down here, over here, and whatnot, 3 different times I cut through where the hinge is in there. It's just not even thinking that the blade wasn't going all the way through the wood, but it was going to go deep enough to get into that pocket for the hinge. So going forward, I would mark those areas so I knew not to cut through them. Another issue I had, which didn't have anything to do with the termite, was on the bottom one, which I don't even know if you can see them very well, but I did try to do some wider lines after I went back and revisited the whole Eddie Van Halen's guitar thing and realized that there was fat lines and thin lines. And they just look shitty. I don't know, and that's my fault. Like I couldn't, trying to freehand that out was not good. Again, I would probably go back and do it with a straight edge if I had to do it over again. The third issue I had was that I carved these independently, and looking at it now, it looks like I was trying to connect these lines and was just a little off, which is not the case at all. I worked on both these panels independently and actually just kind of tried to do kind of similar on both of them, not realizing that all these would have lined up. So what I really wish I would have done is I wish I would have set them down the way they were going to go on the cabinet, and I would have carved them that way, because then I could have carved the line that would have gone continuously from one door to the other, and it would have made it a little bit more cohesive of a unit. So all those things being said, this is going to sit right here, right next to my desk. I'm going to see it every day, and it's going to remind me that it's okay to make mistakes, because those mistakes will lead to something better in the future. And speaking of our future, let's thank some Patreons. We actually have a couple new patrons this week. First being Matt Morgan. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. The second one, I am going to butcher her name. Celine, not that part. I got that one right. Her last name is Izzy Berthum. I'm gonna go with, it'll be in the little thing right here so you can read it. And Celine, I'm sorry if I just completely destroyed your name. And last but not least, we have Easy E Eric Weiss. Thanks, brother. Almost forgot. Steven Mann. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. Do me a favor and like this video. Leave a comment down below if there's a question about something or another. I appreciate you guys sticking around. Do me a favor and subscribe if you haven't already. I like 85-ish% of the people that watch my videos don't subscribe, but it seems like they watch video after video. So if you're watching them, just subscribe. It really helps me out. And until next time, thanks for playing. And now I got to get to work. Working on a little Raid Shadow Legends. Not a sponsor.